life, we must believe that things end, things end at the right time. Things end, things end in due time. This time, it will be my time, yeah. In due time, in my time. I'm so glad that it's my time. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I pray that today has been a blessing to you. So do I want to try to let's skip the small talk, I guess. Let's skip the small talk because now I think I've done 3 videos this week and I'm happy about it. Well, no, okay, this is the third one. But I've done 2 and this will be the third, so I'm happy about that. But in the end of I did a Sinners the movie Sinners review like Wednesday the 6/11 to 2025. And so today is Thursday, 6/12/2025 at 12:39 p.m. to be exact. Okay. Now I'm missing probably some milliseconds, but it's okay. Or whatever. Whatever. And so the end, I think, of the Sinners review, I mentioned something about I don't know if I did, but I want to talk about minding your business. I mean, just lack of better words, whatever. But really not concerning yourself with everyone else and what they have going on or the lack thereof. And I'm not talking about, I think, from a gossip standpoint or like even though you definitely should try to avoid that as much as possible, like spreading information that you don't have clearance or you don't have permission to share. And I mean, we all do it. That doesn't make it okay. It's just a habit that has to be broken. And, one of my things I like to say, I'm gonna interject right quick, if that is equivalent to having fun or, whatever, or being welcoming or whatever, I don't want it. I don't want people to think I'm fun. I'd rather be considered boring if it means that I talk about other people or spread information that has nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, back to the point. But the angle that I want to come from with this, it hit me, I think, kind of it really in 2 situations, but I think on the same no, one was Saturday and one was Sunday. But it dawned on me because we really do, as human beings, look too much to the left and look too often to the right rather than keeping our eye on the prize and keeping our eye on the assignments and the things that have been set before us. Like, we have our own individual task, but we oftentimes muddy it up, with thoughts of other things and thoughts of other people that really just don't intersect. Um and so I guess like I said, this kind of conversation came from 2 separate instances, and I don't want, well, I don't know, like I said, I don't know who listens, but by chance, if the people who, you know, well, if anyone hears this and you feel like I'm talking about you, please don't take offense to it because that's just not my intention. But I do think that there's something that if I notice it and I'm not able to communicate it in that moment, I don't want to sit here and wait on a thing when I know that if I see 1 or 2 people going through it, and or even maybe myself, it could help a multitude of people rather than us being in our egos about, oh, you said this and blah blah blah, and it was about our situation. Let's just get off our soapbox and realize that the things that we go through oftentimes, it's not about us, it's about others. That's even including me. So um yeah, I was having moments with people, And there was just something that I began to notice, and it's very concerning. I mean, it's not so concerning because it's not the end of the world, but it could be for said people. You get what I'm saying? I think let's as believers getting to the throne, the judgment seat of God, right? And hearing anything other than well done, my good and faithful servant, it shouldn't be the aim. We should not aim for anything less than that, right? But I kind of feel as if though with, like I said, the looking in the left and the right, as Ecclesiastes put it, most of our striving will come from competitiveness, envy, jealousy, whether people admit it or not. Most of the things that we say we need, or even our definitely our wants, but I was talking about this earlier. If you start to bleed the lines between your wants and your needs, you're probably running into greed, because a want is clearly different from a need. But I think today's time is getting hard for people to distinguish it because selfishness and their lust for things is becoming apparent. But I mean, that's not really a depth conversation, but it is something that I'm beginning to ponder and think on. But regardless, back to the point, um, I don't forgot a little bit, but I guess I'll talk about me for a little. I don't really care about a lot of stuff, but that doesn't mean that I don't have wants. I've been in a season now where I've been talking to God about, what do I want? And I don't know what I want and all of this other stuff. And I think it was fairly maybe 2 weeks ago, I came to the understanding that I know what I want. It's just the season that I went through has really influenced me in a way that it's like you go from surviving where you convince yourself that you don't want this so that way you don't have to face more disappointment, or there's a lot of variations and variables as to why it happened, but I know that's one of many for me, because it's like, I went without for so long. I don't need X, Y, and Z. I mean, yes, God is all I need, and that's not a lie, but God knows he's all you need. But even still, to fulfill your purpose, there becomes a need that has to be fulfilled, right? And so that's a whole nother conversation. But even still, I have to look at, what do I want? What is the desire that God is giving me in my heart for purposes and plans and things that are beyond my understanding, stuff that I can't fabricate, or stuff that I'm not coming up with on my own, because this is a collaboration with God. And I think that that matters, and that too ties into the not looking left and right, not being so glued to other people and striving, again, like Ecclesiastes said, not striving, because regardless to whether we intend to or not, a lot of humanity and their efforts and their striving will come from jealousy and envy and looking at other people. Most of us would not do half of the stuff we did if we didn't notice someone else doing it. Most of us wouldn't be starting businesses if we didn't see someone else doing it. And I mean, that's just the fact about it. And I know I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but you got to be honest and shame the devil. And that's why I'm just kind of like, getting to the raw core of who I am and what I want. Because if I go back and I talk about me because I know me better than anybody, and I can use me, and hopefully it relates to other people, parts and bits of my testimony and my unfinished story. But I can go back and remember, like I've told this many times before, I've wanted to help people. I was asked what I wanted to do when I grew up, and my response was I want to help people. And the the youth leader tried to get me to pinpoint an area in how I would do that. But even young, it wasn't that I didn't know, because I think I had more wisdom in my youth than I do today, because it was simpler. And so I was like, I don't know. I just want to help people, because now that I look at it, and even with the stance that God kind of has me in, I'm modeling my walk after in this particular moment, definitely, but I want for the rest of my life to model it after Abraham when God told Abraham to go to a place that I will show you. And so, of course, I believe God was separating him from his father. But in the end of that thing, you have to realize God had to say, this is the place. And so I'm just trying to pairing that with the parable of the talents. I'm putting these two stories together for my own sake and, for my walk and my belief and my faith and how I operate as a human being in everything, being fearless, realizing that you got to do something. The least you can do is invest. If you don't know what to do the safest thing. Do the safe thing. If you have no idea, I mentioned Jennifer Lewis, and there's a video that I saw of her, and though she has a more vulgar approach, obscene approach, I admired the sentiment because if you don't know what you want, make something up. Make something up. And to me, it gives me that same sentiment. Go to a place that I will show you. You may not know everything right now, but if you start walking, you'll end up somewhere, and to me, that is like, that's kind of almost the foundation of I want to help people. I didn't know how. I just know even now more so, if I keep walking, I'm going to show up at somebody's doorstep, or whatever needs to happen is going to happen. And so, I use some of me because I was talking to someone and they shared a sentiment that it quote unquote looks easier for some people, or we can go down you know how that sounds, or when people say that or whatever. And so it's no shame to this person because I understand us wanting to, I don't know, actually, you know, because it's a human thing. It's a carnal thing. It's a human feeling to want to feel relatable, relating to other people and feel like you're not alone. So I definitely understand that. I understand that for sure. But I also kind of think, we have to try so hard. Not okay, try our best to care less, if that makes sense, about how hard it might be for someone else, or in let me put that into perspective, how easy it might be for someone else in regards to what God told them to do. That has nothing to do with us. That has absolutely nothing to do with us at all. Um, you know, someone now, granted, you know, I love encouraging people. I really do. If I sense something or I see something, I'm trying my best to encourage you to go in that direction, especially if I know it can bring glory to God, right? And so I cannot sit back and see you not do anything, which is why I guess we have to know how to juggle this feeling, because that's a lot of things in life. You have to know, I guess, the balance of it all, knowing when to mind your business and knowing when to go forward. And I would definitely say, in a sense of, I guess, making it harder on yourself because you're investing, or you're going into territories that don't concern you. Mind your business. Mind your business. And I say that genuinely, like how it sounds. Mind your business. There is, whether it is a business, whether it is a family, whether it is friendship, whether it is education, whatever it might be, there is a business that God has for you to tend to. You have to mind it. You have to keep your eye on the ball, on the prize. You cannot be thinking about, oh, why is it so easy, or why is it so hard, for me, or easy for them. What the only thing I can say, that's none of our business how easy or hard it is for someone else. And it is only gonna make it worse for you, or because on the same coin, it either makes you arrogant or it makes you insecure. When you're looking at other people and you're thinking, oh, I do this 10 times better than they do it. It shouldn't be about that. And then, like I said, on the other side of that coin, oh, they do this so easily and I suffer, and yada, yada, yada. And I guess really attached to even that sentiment, you don't know what a person suffers through going, behind closed doors. You know, what they go through might kill you. What you go through might, kill them. So you really have to be grateful. It goes back to a gratitude and a thankfulness. But definitely, I mean, it's a dangerous place to be in on either side of the situation, because either you think too highly of yourself or you think too lowly of yourself when you're creating, or you're letting the enemy keep this competitive thing or this scarcity, which I think some people connect it to poverty, and how, a poverty mindset keeps a person thinking that one person's success will diminish their own. And I could be wrong, but I do kind of feel like it is connected a little bit when we start to think, oh, they have it easy. You don't know that. You don't know that. And you're concerning yourself with something that does not involve you. There are times and there are seasons. You're not God. You do not know. You don't know who God has waiting for you on the other side, and I guess I could talk about that a little bit, but that's not really what I want to discuss, our impact and sphere of influence. Would it be okay if God only had you dealing with 10 people, whereas someone else is dealing with 1,000 or 10,000? You get what I'm saying? And I think that's why I'm still impressed, and I'm so in awe by my answer when I was young. I wanted to help people, because that's still something I stand by today. I want to help people. I don't know how, but I know that with the giftedness, the skills, talents, and abilities God has given me, I take inventory. I have to keep taking inventory. Am I writing? Am I singing? Am I in these seasons? Because regardless, am I doing the least? Am I doing the least? Do I write a Facebook post? Because even though that's not extensively me writing a poem or writing literature, it's still writing. It's still writing. Am I exercising my free speech? Am I exercising honesty, humility, and communication skills? Because I do consider myself a speaker. I may not be the most affluent and concise and precise person when it comes to terms, but I try my best to speak with an eloquence and poise and technique, because I do think there's a technique to speaking. But that's another thing. But I take inventory. That's all I'm saying. And I may not do it when people see it, or people may not see me when I do it, but that doesn't matter. God knows. God notices everything I do. And that's another thing. I care more about what God is saying rather than what any man has to say. I don't have any points for this video. I'm just talking. I'm just rambling. It's safer. It's not safer, but it's easiest for me to just talk, and rant and ramble rather than having this structured thing, when I'm talking to people, because I'm not talking at you. I want you to feel like I'm right in your face and I'm talking to you. I'm talking with you, right? Because I'm really talking to myself also, reminding myself of some of the things that I've learned with God and I've learned throughout my years of existing. But I do take inventory of everything I can do, everything I like to do, because I think it's important, like I said in another video, to have joy in your labor. It is important. That is a blessing from God, to have joy in your labor. And I think when that joy runs out, start praying. And if God don't revive it, start praying that God leads you in the way where joy is, because there's supposed to be a joy in your work. Most of us are going to live hopefully a long time. I mean, life is quick, but life is also very long when you're living for, to me, when you're living your purpose and you're living for God and you're living for others, life is very long. The days are not as, I don't know. I could be weird, but life is long to me, and I'm only 27, But anyway, take inventory, become so proficient in the study of you that you don't have time to focus on anybody else. You don't have time to look to the left and look to the right. And this is kind of why I'm glad when I was growing up, the enemy tried so hard to make me feel like I was arrogant, I was conceited. But no, I was concerned about me, and that me would play a huge part into how I did what God would place in my heart to do. And I didn't do everything God placed in my heart to do. Sometimes God would give me a dance video, or sometimes God would give me something to do and I didn't do it. And then, I mean, you see this, or, and I mean, there's sometimes God will give you something that you don't have the means to do right now. But if he gave it to you and he knew you didn't have the means to do it, that wasn't for right now. But don't let that dream or that vision or whatever it is die. Write it down and keep praying about it. That's what I did. I was praying to God about the businesses he had gave me, and God knew I didn't have the finances to do it. I didn't know a lot of stuff. And granted, you know, it's not hard. I think a lot of things we make hard, they're not that hard. But just the point being, I didn't have a lot of tutelage or mentorship in certain areas, but I definitely didn't have the finances. And if God is my financier and God is my provider, it don't matter where you go. If God don't bless it, it ain't happening. And so when God said to me, not right now, because if I give it to you, you're going to forget what I taught you, that was okay for me. It's okay for me. But that opens up a whole nother conversation as well. But neither looking left nor looking right, right? And knowing that it's like, okay, how do you say it? Like I said, become proficient in yourself, in the study of you, right? Be so aware of who you are that when somebody comes to tell you something, you really like, oh, really? you question it, question it. And my thing is, I want to do this I probably need to do it in person. I need to. But there was a person who they were giving me they were saying I was full, full of word and stuff like that. But little did they know I was preparing to do some episodes and stuff like that. So I don't really know if it was connected, but nah, they spoke it to me. I think it was on a Saturday and then a Sunday, and yeah, and I did question them because you gotta keep it spicy. I try not to how do you say it? I can't think of the word. Oh Lord. Anyway, but I alluded as if I had no idea what they were talking about. And I'm good at it too. I'm good. I'm good at it too. But no, definitely, and I, because I do want to affirm that, because I know that there are some people who struggle to say what's on their mind and what God, the Holy Spirit, is putting on them to do. And so I do want to affirm that, because you never want someone to shy away because they feel like they didn't do the right thing. And I do think as children of God, we owe it to each other to give honor where honor is due, especially when someone does something and they do it because God told them to. That deserves to be honored. Someone taking a leap of faith, but believing God and risking something. Jesus said, what those that forsake land, houses, and all this other stuff for me will reap 100-fold. And that's kind of a little different, but I just wanted to throw that out there. They will reap. They will reap. And my thing is, you don't want to be one of those people who withhold, and try to prevent a person from reaping. And whether we think so or not, there are people out here who can do that. They can do that. That doesn't mean that God wants them to. Everybody has a choice. Everybody has a choice. You'd be surprised how many people God has spoken to regarding you and told them to do this or do that, say this or say that, and they didn't say it or they didn't do it. And that's a whole nother conversation in itself, because some people don't believe. I believe that can prolong something happening, maybe, but I don't know. I don't sit in heaven, so now my mind is just rambling. So let's get back to my point and what I was trying to say, because I want to, I guess, touch on another area of minding your business. Not really. I think because even both situations that I but I encountered, they really, I want people to become so aware, self-aware of the purpose and the mission that God has for them, that it is not about all of this other stuff. I think if I could give a person an applicable thing that they could do, and it would be simple. It's simple, but however difficult you make it out to be, that would be up to you. But renew your mind. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so, you have to start speaking life over yourself. You have to actually believe what the word says, right? That's one thing, there's probably a lot of things I could give you. But if you are not reframing the way you see things, and I mean it may not happen overnight, but once you reframe it, I believe that there's a, a lot of reclaiming, or even a lot of just simply I'm trying to think. I don't know the words, but it just happens. And to me, that's made it simplest for me when I understand God made me for a purpose, right? And when you look at the word, the purpose, I think, for all of us is to create value. And so now, once you start getting into individuality, okay, we create value, but I'm an individual. So who do I show up as? What am I? Right. And so that's where that inventory comes in. But you do have to know the general purpose, I believe, reason as to why God created us. God created us to be in his image, to resemble the things of heaven, right? And add value to this earth, add value to each other. That's number one. So that's why, honestly, you could do anything, and all things you do, do it as unto the glory of God. Whether you eat, sleep, drink, work, whatever you do it unto the glory of God. It don't matter what you do. It's, as long as it's holy, as long as it's acceptable and pure, do it unto God. But then when you start getting into the individuality, this is where I think you have to be like, is it Jabaz or Tobaz? You have to start going to God, because his name meant something significantly different than what he prayed and asked God for. But God granted him because he asked for it. And we can do that even in our livelihood. We can do that even in our passions, even whatever it might be. But I think you have to be aware. You have to be aware of what you like. You have to be in tune with your giftedness, your talents, your abilities, your blessings, your circumstances. And I say circumstances, not saying that you put your circumstance over God, but it's like, okay, God, I know that I have this, that, and the third. What can I do with it? What can I do with this? Right? When I first started my YouTube channel, I had my cell phone and I had a nightstand table. I had a few lamps, and I had bought a phone grip thingy to stand my phone up, phone stand, but it was more than that. But either way, and I used that to make videos, singing videos, talking videos, and it was only the start of something. But that's one thing that I noticed about me. I will do something. I will do something. I've never not did anything. I have never just been lazy. That's not me. I will do something. Whether or not it works, that's not up to me. That's not even up to you. It's not your responsibility to make it successful. It is your responsibility to do it. Right? God is the one who gives man the ability to obtain and gain and have success, right? But Ecclesiastes also mentions you got to do everything that you can, basically from the sun up to sundown, because you don't know what will bring you success. You have no idea, right? But it is your faithfulness to who God has created you to be, and to God alone, doing these things, walking to the place that he will show you. Because it takes one moment in this life. It takes one opportunity. And I know I'm rambling at this point, but this is what I do. This is what I do. Speaking for me is easy. It takes one opportunity in this life, for things to change, whether for the good or for the bad. And so, I want to put as many bets on myself as I can and give God everything I possibly can, because let's be real, God doesn't need me to do anything, but it is for my good that I invest in what God has given me. Like I said, if we're talking about the parable of the talents, the least you can do is put it in a trust fund, put it in a savings account. I mean, in a Lord have mercy. What the APY? The Lord, I don't forgot what kind. No, that is a savings. Yes, put it in a savings and get your 4% or your 3.8% return, like interest. You know what I'm saying? And I guess when we start talking about talents or we start talking about skills, okay, skills is a little bit different from money. But even still, I was talking to myself and I said, over the years, you've done singing videos, you've done speaking videos, you've written songs. People have said they wanted to work with you in a studio. So don't ever for a second think that you have not been planting seeds. Now, whether or not the increase comes, because I'll give you this, right? I have watermelon seeds right now, and I have okra, and I have a lot of stuff out in the field where last year I had only pots. Now I'm in a field and I have pots. I'm growing, thank the Lord, and I'm doing it faithfully, thank the Lord. But either way, point is, deer and probably some other things have come and ate up some of my stuff, and I done forgot why I was sharing this, but I know it's for a good purpose because I'm not gonna give up just because that happened. I'm not giving up. But my thing is, I planted my seed. I planted my seed and some things came up against it, and it's okay. They didn't get everything. They didn't get everything. And to me, I was telling God, I said, God, though, garden is a little bit different from this kind of stuff. I mean, because in a garden, we have become so accustomed to the way of the land, that the lay of the land, we know when certain crops are going to come up. We know when this is going to happen, and that we have expectations for it, right? Because we experienced it. But I do believe God wants to give us experiences because the experience is what increases our faith, whether people believe so or not. Now, there is the gift of faith, and I do believe I have a gift of faith, but even still, that doesn't change the fact that the same reason why Jesus came and did all the miracles he did was because he knew that there were a people who would only turn to him because they seen it. They seen it with their own eyes. But then there were the other side of that coin, the people who saw it, they didn't care for him. They just wanted the blessings. And he said it would be worse off for them because they had the Christ and they rejected him for their carnality and their flesh. That's a whole nother conversation. But my point, I think, in trying to bring that up and bring that out, I can't even really remember, Lord, because I know it was potent. But I don't want people giving up because sometimes even when you do plant your seed, something may happen, and it may not come up to be what you want it to be, but that don't mean you quit. That don't mean you stop. I have at least about 80, 70 crops, in that field. I can't just let them die because 3 of them or 4 of them got munched on, and then one dried up because I guess something in the ground nibbled on the roots. I can't let that happen. That's not good stewardship. If I do my part and let God do the rest, the success will be what it is going to be. But as long as I show up, that is my responsibility, And I want to share this too because I'm talking about not looking to the left nor looking to the right. Because there's other people in this garden as well. But the main thing that came to my heart was, Lord, thank you that it was me. Because I don't want, anything to happen to anybody's stuff, let alone mine. But I don't want it to happen to any of us. But I thank you that it was me because, and I chose to look at it this way, but I'm glad it was kind of embedded in my heart. I have more summers than they will. And I don't say that in a negative way, but I mean, if it be the natural order of events, people who are older than you should pass before you do. They should. If it be the will of God, they live long and I live long. But in the natural progression of life and human expectancy, older people should pass away or transition before those who are younger. And so that was my whole approach. Like, God, well, I thank you. And I think that's another thing that will shift the tides in our favor. When things start happening and it looks bad, say thank you, God. Start thanking God, because these things, they are a mere test, I believe. Mere test of your faith and mere test to see what are you really about and what do you really believe in, And so to me, it just is what it is. I started the garden, and even now, I didn't really start it for me, but my whole purpose to help people. I want to help. And now, definitely the stuff that I have out in the field, I have it there because I want to, hopefully I can sell some, and hopefully I can give most, you know. And I don't know, I've been wrestling with it because people want me to sell my stuff. Well, some people do, and I know there are plenty of people who would like to take it for free. And God, hey, I'll be blessed either way, because more blessed to give than to receive. But I am trying to be a steward, and I have to diligently steward over my life, my health, my strength, right? If God gives me something, I have to be here trying my best, but I'm focused on me. I'm focused on me. But that project, that is about other people. That is about adding value to my community. The same way when I sung songs, the same way when I did videos back in the day, the same way when I write my poetry, it is about helping other people. Now, granted, I would say my heart is definitely more in this garden than my music, because I do sing for me. I love to sing. I love singing, and I love writing, but they're more selfish than my garden. But I still do it. I sing for other people because it's something that I prayed about when I was younger. I wanted God to bless my voice in such a way that it actually opened the ears of the deaf man, right? And I wanted my words and my poetry and even my physical appearance to be so immaculate that when people saw me, their eyes, like the blind eyes, would open, right? And so I wanted that for the goodness of God. I prayed that kind of stuff so that God's glory would prevail in the land of the living, right? But that's a whole nother thing in itself. That's a whole nother thing. Because I want people, don't look to the left nor to the right. Like I said, when the deer came and they was eating up my stuff, you know, I could have got mad, but I chose to say thank you to God, and I chose to pray. I chose to pray because, and granted, I know people can say, well, why didn't you do this? I did what God told me to do, and the result of it was going to be what the result was going to be. And I said, well, Lord, after I do what you tell me to do and what you tell me to say and ask, then it's yours, because if you're not going to take care of it, if you're not going to defend me or defend this, then it's just going to be what it's going to be, because it's your reputation on the line. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. I just want to see your people taken care of. That's it. And so if God didn't do his part, it won't gonna happen. And so, but I've learned to have that rapport with God because it's honest. It's honest, but it's also respectful. Like, this is my business, not just my business partner, but this is my employer. Do you understand? I live for God and I will die for God. And so, to me, bringing it all in, I don't look to the left nor to the right, thinking about who has it easier, because I don't care. And I want the people in my life, the people around me who experience me, to experience God and experience that same thing that I know. I don't care. I'm going to be free. I am going to be free, liberated. I mean, full of joy. And so, you know, let's like also, I cannot. Okay, well, no. I think I don't want to say anything too personal connected to that conversation, but okay, if some, Lord, give me the words right quick, Lord. If someone decides they want to deny or reject the opportunity God has given them to be blessed, that has nothing to do with me. You know, and I don't think there's a way I can talk about it without getting too deep into it, because that's none of my business, and I just want to pray about that situation, but also enlighten people to understand you can only answer for you. Stop trying to do things trying to be manipulative. You have to be responsible for you. The speck in your own eye, you have to measure, and you have to look at that, right? Everybody else will have to answer for their own thing. But also, we have to stop lying and using people as excuses for why we don't want to do something, or why we feel inadequate, or whatever the case might be. Stop lying. Stop it. You can do all things through Christ that strengthen you, or whatever, and whatever the case might be. And I've gotten to the place now where, and this may not be biblically correct, but if the Holy Spirit don't say no, I'm already on the way. I am already on the way, because I'm literally trying to be a more proactive believer. I am trying to be more proactive in the things that I do rather than being stagnant and reactive. I don't think there's a better feeling than seeing a student you have raised up and taught already knowing what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and knowing that they can be trusted by themselves. Even though God may never leave nor forsake us, I do believe God wants to know he doesn't have to coddle us in order for us to do what he said. At some point, you should be competent enough to be able to go somewhere without needing every little confirmation here and there. And I'll be honest, and I can say this because I've seen God speak through me and speak to people, and me not have any clue that it was happening. But some people are wired like that. Because I don't get a lot of yeses and a lot of nos. I'm always on go until, I don't know, until the door is closed. But that could be because I'm a little naive to a lot of stuff. I just don't know. But I don't worry myself with that kind of stuff. And I've never thought to. Granted, I'm glad that a lot of the systems and the woes of this world have never affected me to the point where I became second guessing everything. I don't do that, but I've seen God do it, and me not knowing nothing about a situation and talking about something that somebody going through, or even going through a situation, and now the person that I end up talking to, they going through the exact same thing or whatever. And it's, to me, I don't have to worry myself with the issues and the dilemmas of other people. That's a God thing. That's a God thing. But what I do want to do is be a vessel. Now granted, if someone I know, they're going through a hard time, I should worry myself, quote unquote, concern myself, grieve with them, be glad with them, whatever the case might be. But that's not what I'm talking about in concerning, I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, I'm just saying, I can only be responsible for me, right? And that that doesn't change. Like that is something that remains to the ends of time, you know. Especially at this point now, I'm grown. I am grown, and I thank God for it. And that I only get older from here. I don't care to prolong my stay in certain situations, especially when I don't have to stay there. People may do things, and yes, it can have ripple effects, but do I have to stay there? Absolutely not. I know we're in a time where people want to act like and negate the effects of what other people do, but that's not reality. If someone is causing suffering and injustice, and that's keeping you from progressing, that's a real thing. But yet and still, I believe God is better than that. If you pay attention and you listen, you can get around it. You can get around it because you're always going to be responsible for what you did, the action steps you took. And let God work on whatever that situation is. If it's the enemy, whatever it might be, because it might be God. I talked about this, the forgiveness and the chastisement of the Lord. A lot of us don't understand that you can be forgiven and still have to pay for what you did. Do not be fooled. God will not be mocked. We cannot go around here doing stuff and then being like, oh, but God wouldn't do that because he forgives. I think you have fooled yourself to the next level of delusion. and misunderstanding. I mean, we look throughout the whole Bible. I know this is another conversation, but we look through the whole Bible and we see how the children of Israel always got their lashing, you know. I mean, I don't know. But point is, I know I done went on 50 minutes. I done rambled, but I pray that you understand, it's not about how easy it is for someone else. It's not about how hard it is for you. Woe is me. Stop being the victim, please. I know trust me, we all could play the victim. We all could play it, but why do you want to play that role instead of being the victor, the victorious one? I trust me. Some of us have been hurt. Some of us have been attacked, and doors have been closed, and people have tried to keep us down. There are some people who actually do endure that, and it is actually insufferable. But yet and still, I encourage you to keep fighting for yours. What is yours? What you believe God has given to you, because in the end, you are still going to be charged with, did you try? Did you do anything? Whether or not it was successful or not. Like I said, I've did a lot of things, and a lot of stuff has went well. It appears to have gone nowhere. But like with gardening, the very first year I started, I went outside and looked at that seed every day, and got weary. But I didn't stop. It was just I got tired very quickly, because you didn't see the quickness, the swiftness, how how it came, or you wanted it to be, basically. But as I began doing the thing the second year, and now this is the third year, I don't have to look at it every day. I did what I needed to do, and I went on and started my next projects, because that was another seed that had to be planted, and whenever it comes up, it comes up. Whenever it's ready, it's ready. Yes, I still tend to it, but some things in this life you don't tend to like that. Like, now, granted, let's say I'll use this example. If I use a singing video that I done and people comment on it, you got to tend to the comment section. You got to, tend to sharing it and all of this other stuff. So there's ways to nurture and actually steward over each individual project. But sometimes you got to know when, okay, that is the longevity of that is the life of that, whatever. You just got to be mindful. But I just say that because don't get so caught up in the beginning that you don't have enough patience and enough tenacity to make it to the end. Like okay, I'll share this a little bit, then I think I'll be done, because I done talk now. But the deer, okay, this is how experience is good. Faith and experience, I love. Faith is the substance of things not seen, but things, evidence of things hoped for, right? But the reason I love experience is because it strengthens your faith, right? And some people hate that, might hate that, and might not agree. But like I said, Jesus did all those miracles so that the people who needed to see it would believe. The same way he said to Thomas, you believe because you have seen. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with seeing, but once you see it, it kind of does take away some of the power of faith, if that makes sense. But not necessarily. But to the point that I'm trying to make is that the deer, they went and ate up some of my okra, but because I had experience, I knew how low the deer could eat before the new leaves would not come through. Because some of them, I mean, they destroyed completely. They ate lower than the first starter leaves, but on others, it looked like they ate the whole thing, but they didn't. And so I left it, and some of them, they left the starter leaves, but others, it looked as if though the appearance of the starter leaves, well, I guess it was beneath where the starter leaf should be, but it wasn't. And on a few of them, on multiple of them really, and my experience in that led me to leave them there so that way they could do their thing. They could regrow. And so
Now, granted, for photosynthesis purposes, it needs at least one leaf, right? So for some of them that didn't have the one leaf, they did shrivel up and croak on up out of here. But point is, I didn't have to panic because I had experience in that. And I think it's the same way when God delivers us or when God answers a prayer or when God does anything, you have experience. And so your response is different. Your response is different. And I believe God wants to give his people and his creation the experience. Some people are only going to come to God because of the experience. I didn't have that option. I got saved and I lived in a backslidden state from 7 till about the age of 24, 23, somewhere around there, you know. And at that point, that's a whole nother conversation, but I'm just saying, don't stress yourself with the things that are going on to the left of you or to the right of you. Keep God. Look to the hills which cometh your help. That's something in front of you. If you got to look up, I prefer you look up rather than you look down. But all of our help, it cometh from the Lord. And so, you can do anything you put your mind to. I mean, obedience, faithfulness, love, peace, the businesses, whatever. And I say obedience first because I think when we say that I can do all things through Christ that strengthen me, we don't think about the things that are spiritual. We think about things that are material. But the first thing that come to mind, you should want the blood of Christ to empower you to be faithful to him. You should want that. You should want God to teach you and lead you and guide you so that everything else can be built on a solid foundation, and especially your self-esteem, your security, your image, you should want that. And so I hope I said something that was helpful. I ramble, get used to it or don't. It's not going to change. I pray, this is my prayer for me, that I not become like the people who want their episodes, or they want their conversations to be dictated by their time slots. I don't necessarily force my videos to be 50 minutes long, 30 minutes long. If it is, then it is. If it's not, then it's not. It might be 5 minutes one day, but I do notice for myself personally, most of them come out to be like an hour long because I love to talk. And it is a gift that God has given me, and I exercise it. I've always exercised it. I've always wanted to help people, like I said. And I think this fuels me to do that. And I mean, it's one of the aspects and many avenues that I can do that. But that is because that was what God had gave me to do. That's the assignment God gave me. It's not one aspect. That's why I didn't, when I was growing up, I didn't need to say, I'm going to do it through this way. No, I'm going to do it through every opportunity God blesses me with. That's why I didn't know, because it was a mystery even to me. It was a mystery to me how I would help people, but God found and finds ways and found a way, And so, I don't know what words to really part on. Maybe that was the best thing. Maybe I should have just closed my mouth then. But, you have to be responsible for yourself. In the end, when you make it to the judgment seat and you make it into the throne room of heaven, God is not going to be asking about what so and so and so and so did. I believe it's going to be about what you did. And the very least that you could have done was invested it into a savings account, and so that it could gain interest. Even for the believer, the least you can do is use your gift inside of the church, inside of the four walls. If you don't know how to use it outside in these secular spaces, use it in the church. That is the least you can do. That's the least you can do. If you don't know how to start a book, the least you can do is just write. The least you can do is write. You got to know, what is this least? What is the least? Because let me tell you something. There's going to come a day when somebody, you might be dead and gone, or maybe before that you showed somebody these writings, but somebody finds that book and it changes their life, and it causes them to believe in God like never before. So at least do something, so that way when you dead and gone, there's a ripple effect in your life. I mean, you have purpose either way, but there was meaning. You understand the impact, right? So at least, and I think that might, even though that's probably not the best word for people to focus on, but I would say some people need to say that at least. Keep that in mind. At least. Can I at least do this? Can I at least do that? I may not be able to save $100. Can I at least put aside $1 a week? It may not look like much now, but it'll accrue. It will multiply if you keep doing it faithfully. At least the bare minimum. That at least gonna save somebody's life. Anyway, remember to stay positive. Keep that with you, spread it wherever you go. My name is Stefan, if you didn't know. With all that being said, love yourselves and love others. Well, keep your eye on the prize. Not on everybody else, but on God and yourself.